The radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Monday, day before 2024 U.S. elections. Thanks for joining me. Hope you had a good weekend. I hope you started the week well, because it's going to be a mess. Interesting. It's going to be interesting tomorrow. So we're going to talk a little bit about tomorrow, about the election, exactly how I think, or not how I think, because I have no idea, but how it potentially could play out. What are the challenges? What are the issues? How have the candidates? What is their closing message? So we'll talk about that. Tomorrow is election day. We'll also talk about Iran, and we'll talk about Milei. I've got a video of Tucker Carlson lined up. I don't know. I at some point it becomes laughable to share these videos, but I don't know. I guess you have to. It's Tucker Carlson. He's got millions of followers, and he has the ear of potentially a future president of the United States, and so on. So I might show the video of Tucker Carlson. I think even given your expectations regarding Tucker Carlson, this will be even worse. So anyway, I'll show you a little bit of Tucker. I'm on a crusade against Tucker, I guess. I want his 3.3 or 5 or 10 or 15, 20 million viewers. I want them all on the Yaron Brook Show. That's my goal, is to show how just goddamn stupid this guy is. All right. Stupid is the wrong word, because he's probably pretty smart, but just completely lost his mind. The irrationality spreads like a fungus, like I don't know what you want to call it. It attaches to a little bit of part of the brain, and then it just takes over the whole thing, and it's become dominant. All right, let's see. I want to remind you all that tonight we're going to have a fascinating discussion, get away a little bit from election and talking and everything. It's not going to make any difference anyway. But tonight, I've got Mike Mazza from the Ayn Rand Institute. He's a fellow at the Ayn Rand Institute on the show. We're going to be talking about private space exploration. We'll talk about Elon Musk and SpaceX and other companies and the history of it, and what are the prospects for the future, and can this survive, and can it happen, and how does it happen, all of that. We'll talk about all of that. And we'll also talk about, because the other thing Mike is really big on is philosophy of science, and he's teaching right now a course at the Ayn Rand University on Karl Popper, and he just gave a lecture on Karl Popper at Ocon, and I consider Karl Popper one of the most influential philosophers of the 20th century, certainly on science and even and including economics. So we'll talk about Karl Popper somewhat, and so it would be great if some of you Popper fans joined us and asked some tough questions. Generally, it'd be great if all of you joined us and asked tough or not tough questions. Just participated. I think it's going to be a really interesting show. Again, private space, inspiring, philosophy of science, maybe not so inspiring, but important to understand what the issues are and how it all kind of fits together. All right, of course, you can ask questions during this period of time. As I said, talk about elections, Iran, Milei, and maybe Tucker. In the meantime, we've got some stickers. Ryan did a $5 sticker. Volta did a sticker. John did a sticker. So, yeah, stickers are coming in. Questions are coming in. All is good. Keep it going. Keep it up. And yes, we, after a good start in November, let's keep the good start going and accelerating it upwards to make it even better. All right, tomorrow's election. You guys get to choose between Kamala and Trump. And so let me say a few mega things about this election. These are really, really, really bad candidates. This is really, for both, I think, Democrats and Republicans, or maybe for Democrats not so much, but for Republicans, this is the bottom of the barrel. And for Democrats, it's pretty bad. It's, Kamala's not the best candidate out there. She's not particularly good on the road. She's not good answering questions. She doesn't convey with confidence the ability to lead and the ability to deal with the uncertainty and the changing environment of the presidency. She just doesn't convey that. She doesn't have it. And one of the things primaries do is they wean this kind of out. They test people. They put them up on stages and test them. And I think looking back, the big failure of the Democratic Party, and this is absolutely going to be true for them if Kamala loses, is that they allowed Biden to run. That is, a year ago, whoever the powers should be should have come together. Certainly Biden's wife, if she cared about him at all, should have been part of this, and they should have basically sat Joe Biden down and said, you came in, you saved us from a second term of Trump. That's great. We need you to step aside in this election and let there be a real primary and let there be a real competition, and let's see what the next generation is. That should have been done. I don't think Kamala would be the Democratic nominee if that were the case. I don't know who would be, but I think it's somebody with more gravitas, with more ability, maybe somebody who ideologically, philosophically, we disagree with even more. I don't know. I don't think it would have been somebody from the far left. I think it would have been somebody really, positioning themselves in the center, whether it's Winnemer from Michigan, or whether it's what's his name from California, or I don't know, or maybe somebody new we don't expect. Remember, Obama came out of nowhere. So I think looking back, if Kamala loses, one would have to say, I think she did her best. She ran a decent campaign. She went to the center. She dissed the far left. She denied the fracking ban. She denied a lot of woke. She de-emphasized identitarianism. She tried to pivot to be perceived as pro-Israel. She did what she needed to do, I think, in order to win a campaign. It's just she's not very good. She's just not very good on her feet. And she's not very strong. And she just doesn't convey a presidential aura. That laugh didn't help, right? So Democrats, they should have acted like adults. They should have acted like they care about the country. Maybe they didn't believe Donald Trump would be the Republican nominee, but it doesn't really matter. They should have taken Joe Biden. And the fact that Joe Biden was declining mentally, I think, has been clear for a long, long time. The fact that even if he was capable of finishing up his term, I don't think there's any question about the fact that he's not capable of doing another 4 years. I think that should have been obvious a year ago. And if the Democrats had done that, I think they'd be winning right now. I think they could. I think they can beat. I think a better candidate than Kamala Harris could beat Trump. But Kamala has a lot of vulnerabilities that she just can't overcome in one of these. Partially, given the mood of the country, it needed somebody who could distance themselves a little bit from Biden. So, one of Kamala's liabilities is the fact that when she asked what policies would you reverse that Biden did, she couldn't come up with anything because she was part of that administration. She didn't want to diss her former boss. But you got to be able to say something, right? You got to be able to differentiate yourself. And of course, any other Democratic candidate could have done that. I think any other Democratic candidate who've gone through the primaries would have been a centrist and would have won from the center. So Yeah, so I think that's going to be the big lesson. Not that they're ever going to have these circumstances, but that's going to be the big regret for the Democratic Party if they lose. I think the second regret, and I've talked about this several times, the second regret that Kamala will have is if she loses, it means she probably lost Pennsylvania. And that, of course, places into big question, shouldn't she have taken Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, as a VP and deal with chemistry after the election, but just win Pennsylvania? That should have been the only focus. She needs Pennsylvania to win this. There are other ways she can win, but they're very hard and more unlikely. Walz is not ideal. He kind of solidifies. He comes from the left. Maybe that solidifies a left flank, but that probably she had anyway. Yeah, I really think that if she wanted to win this, and if she was serious about winning it, and if she'd run a perfect campaign, that would have involved, going and getting Josh Shapiro on the ticket. Other than that, Kamala is Kamala. The Democrats are the Democrats. This is about as good as they could have done, right? Good as they could have done. Republicans. I mean, given Kamala's running, almost any other Republican would be blowing out of the water right now. I mean, literally blowing out of the water, I think. I think any Republican would be defeating Kamala. Primarily because maybe they'd lose some of the MAGA crazies, but they'd get a lot of the center, which now is splitting and maybe going towards Kamala. They'd get a lot of the center. Certainly, I think even DeSantis could beat Kamala solidly. I don't think Vivek could. Vivek was a nut, but he never had a chance of winning. But I think any of those Republican candidates could have. And again, where were the adults in the room in the Republican Party? I mean, what should have happened was they should have coalesced around one candidate early, one anti-Trump candidate, and basically told everybody else, go home. I mean, Trump basically completely dissed the Republican establishment, if you will. He didn't participate in the debates, shunned them completely, ridiculed them. I mean, now he represents that Republican establishment, right? So, Republican Party should have nominated anybody else. Anybody else. Because they would have won this election fairly easily, and they would have brought the country back from, I think, a real abyss by having somebody sane at the top of their ticket. Whereas what we've got right now is probably somebody who's fairly incompetent and somebody who's not there, not sane, just a whack job, a nutcase, a nutcase. Now, it's true that the adults were chased away, but the adults were chased away more so after he won the nomination than before. There was still a window there where there was an opportunity. After he won the nomination, now every single mechanical process within the Republican Party is owned by Trump. I mean, his daughter-in-law is the chairman of the Republican Party, right? Co-chairman of the Republican Party. And all his accolades, they're all over there. They dominate. That wasn't exactly the case before, somewhat, but not completely. And if Trump loses, Republicans will have to really think it through. Now, they could run him again in 2028, and we'll get to some scenarios. What happens if he loses, and does he stand down, and what exactly happens? I think there are a lot of scary scenarios here. But if he loses, I don't know where the Republican Party grows, but it's certainly the case the Republican Party has lost its way completely. And the fact that it allowed itself to be captured by Trump, the fact that it allowed itself to be captured by Trump over and over and over again, in spite of a long history of losses, 2018, 2020, and 2022 are all years in which Republicans lost. And 2020 is not just Trump lost, but they lost the Senate in 2020 and in 2022 when they had a chance to recapture it. They couldn't. So, and those have had devastating consequences on the country. The fact that Republicans lost the Senate in 2020 allowed Biden to do things that he couldn't have otherwise done. So, a lot of soul searching, but I don't know if they have a soul. So I don't know if there is anybody, any way to search. Soul searching, you have to have a soul to search. And this modern Republican Party has no soul. They've sold it to a man named Donald Trump. By the way, Donald Trump's closing argument in his rally, I think it was yesterday. In his rally yesterday, Donald Trump said, just to give you a sense of how nutty this guy is. And he's nutty, but this is why people vote for him, right? He's talking about the assassination attempt against him, and he says, I have this piece of glass here, the bulletproof glass that he has surrounding him on the podium. But all we have really over here is the fake news. They're in front of him, right, sitting there. And to get to me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much. This is nuts. This guy is going to be president of the United States. He just said he doesn't mind if some people from the mainstream media get shot. Now, I know it's his rhetoric, it's the way, but still. Right? And he had some crazy stuff to say about, Liz Cheney facing 9-barrel shooting at her. It wasn't exactly an execution squad, but it was, it's clearly a threat. And by the way, Liz Cheney grew up in Wyoming. Donald Trump facing people with rifles. Who are you betting on? I'd bet on Liz, particularly if she had a gun, right? I think she's better trained on weapons than Donald Trump is, but that's just a side note, right? Then he went on to complain about, the 2020 elections. He says it's a crooked country. This is the United States of America. It's a crooked country. They want to put you in jail because you want to make it straight. Think of it. They cheat in elections, and you call them on it, and they want to put you in jail. Okay. And then he says, basically, maybe I shouldn't have left the White House in 2021. I should have just stayed. I should have fought it. Right? So he still doesn't accept the fact that he lost. He still doesn't accept the fact that he should have left, that it was his constitutional duty to leave. Right? He said, you watch. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so much fun. This is if he wins. It'll be nasty a little bit at times, and maybe at the beginning in particular, but it's going to be something. This is the guy you want in the White House? In January? Really? I don't know. Anyway, he very well could be. He's on the way. I don't know who's going to win. Polls came in over the weekend. did not clarify. It basically still looks like it's a tie, or it's a toss-up, not a tie, a toss-up. It's not a tie. It's a toss-up. It's hard to tell. Nobody's making predictions. Nate Silver, with his models, is saying it's 51 Trump, 49 Kamala. And that's not 51% of the vote. That's 51% he wins, 49% she wins. New York Times, which has the old 538 model, again, they can't. It's very, very close. Can't really make any heads or tails on who's going to win. Can't really make a prediction. Almost everybody is not making predictions. You got 7 battleground states. They all are coming in as ties within all of them, even when there's a lead, or within the margin of error. There was a poll on Saturday published by the Des Moines, Iowa, was it Des Moines, Iowa something newspaper, basically saying, a poll by a very, very, legit, reputable pollster, saying Harris was leading in Iowa. It seems batshit crazy to me, but that's what the poll said. So nobody knows what that means. There have been some other polls by other entities suggesting, that it's, where was this? Yeah, basically suggesting it's super close. So it's a photo finish. We don't know. Nobody knows. Your vote might count. Des Moines Register, thank you, capitalist spy, Des Moines Register. Your vote actually might count this election because it's so close. And we probably won't know tomorrow night. So here's the breakdown, unless there's a real surprise, and there could be, because one of the things that is true is in 2020 and in 2022 and in 2016, the polls were wrong, very, very wrong. Obviously, in 2016, they underestimated Trump's power. In 2020, they underestimated Trump. They thought Biden was running away with it, and it was very, very close. They got the winner right, but they didn't get the margin right. But in 2022, they thought Republicans were running away with it, and we're gonna, you remember the red wave? You remember the red wave in 2022? So here's the question. If the polls have a 2020 bias, Donald Trump wins in a landslide. If you adjust for the 2020 bias, if it's not been adjusted in the polls, Trump wins in a landslide. If the polls have a 2022 bias, and you adjust, Kamala Harris wins in a landslide. So either of those scenarios is possible. Is possible. But if the polls are more accurate than 2020 or 2022, then it's going to be unbelievably close. One of the closest elections in American history, at least going into it. Now, what do we know about when we'll find out the results? Like, we'll probably know the result from Georgia really fast. We'll probably know that relatively early tomorrow night. They're on top of their game. They're very fast. And it depends on the margin, because there are some lagging votes that come in. So if it's very tight, people might not want to call Georgia. But Georgia counts the votes very fast. North Carolina, fast. New rules in place. We should know tomorrow night. Pennsylvania, probably won't know tomorrow. Probably won't know tomorrow. Pennsylvania will probably spill into Wednesday. Michigan, relatively fast. Late tomorrow, early Wednesday. Wisconsin, Wednesday probably. Arizona, sometime this month. That's without the legal challenges, just the counting. So who knows? It'll take days. Later in the week, maybe Friday. Nevada, later in the week. So, there are scenarios in which we'll know who the president is, I think, as soon as Pennsylvania reports. Pennsylvania is going to be the key. Certainly Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Particularly if you have Georgia and North Carolina already in the bag. So if you have Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, you might already know who won. It could still be that Nevada and Arizona will determine it, but hard to tell. Florida is going to go Trump. So we'll get results in Florida fairly quickly. I think Florida was fast last time. There's no reason to assume it won't be fast this time. So I expect Florida, we'll find out. But Florida's not a battleground state. So I'm just looking at the battleground states, right? And I think Florida will be Trump. So we will see. What we know tomorrow night. I will be flying. I'm landing in Nashville fairly late Central Time. Certainly by then, some of these might have been called. Georgia, North Carolina, and a bunch of other blue and red states will have been called. By the time I get in my hotel room, we might know something more. But probably won't know who won. If there's some shocking news, I might go online when I get to the hotel just to let you guys know and say a few comments about it. But I doubt that'll be the case. I think we're going to have to wait until Wednesday. I'll try to do a show Wednesday. I can't promise I can, but I'll try to do a show Wednesday. I'm doing 2 talks on the evils of democracy on Wednesday, of all things. I don't know how this topic came up, but I'm doing 2 talks on the evils of democracy on Wednesday, so that'll be the case. Let's see, a few other election-related issues. I will say this, I meant to say it earlier about Trump. One of the things Trump has been doing, he's been doing this for a week now, but he's really been doing it since the beginning of the campaign, but intensifying it for the week. And this is exactly what he did in 2020. He also did it in 2016, but he didn't need it in 2016. He is basically telling his base that if he loses, it's a stolen election. So he's telling his base, basically, there's no way I can lose. And if you see me losing, they're stealing the election. Now, you all know what that means, and you all know how the base is going to respond, and you all know what they're going to think. And how that could very much lead to violence, to, delays, to January 6th-like phenomena. This time, I think the government will be prepared, but still, to violence and to real issues. Real issues in the weeks and months to come. Days, weeks and months to come. I mean, you have to also say that the reality is that people on the left, there are people on the left, not insignificant people on the left, not insignificant forces on the left, that are basically saying if Trump wins, we're never going to allow him to be sworn in. We're going to, again, go out into the streets and fight him getting into power. So no matter who wins, there are elements within each party. I think they're bigger in the Republican Party because MAGA dominates, and I think the people calling for don't let Trump into the White House are at the margin in the Democratic Party, whereas here it's at the heart of the Republican Party. In either side, they're going to flip out, and it's who knows what's going to happen. Ed says fire set in the cities. It's quite possible by both parties. Our cities could be burning or whatever. It's hard to tell, right? And it won't happen immediately because this will go through the courts and stuff, and they have to get organized and everything. Proud Boys, for example, are getting ready, right? So what they call the Proud Boys, right? Supposedly are getting ready to to go out there and do whatever they need to do in order to support Donald Trump and prevent him from losing. They're making threats. Now it's hard to tell what exactly they can do, and remember that I'm sure they're being monitored by the FBI pretty closely, given January 6th. But supposedly there is a lot of activity both on Telegram and on Trump's Truth Social network, where chapters are gathering across state lines. They've talked about watching polls. They've been boasting about attending Trump rallies to protect the former president. Who knows? Who knows? But there's a lot out there. There's a lot out there that could be, destabilizing, put it that way. And because of this instability, at least this morning, markets were down. I think financial markets generally are kind of in a holding their breath mode. I think you're going to see significantly increased volatility as the results start coming in and as uncertainty sets in. Unless there's a clear-cut victory by one side or the other, this is going to be suspenseful, and markets are going to have to figure out how to price this, price whoever won, but also price uncertainty of violence, the uncertainty of the next few weeks or months before the new president comes in. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty. The people are going to be trigger happy on trading. Not a bad time to be on the sidelines of the markets, or as probably makes more sense, just to be in the market and just not worry about it. By the way, I wanted to show it today, but I didn't have a chance. There's some great graphs about how the stock market does, Republican presidents, Democratic presidents, whether a Democrat wins or a Republican wins, the year after the election, the year of the election, all of that stuff. And, assuming the future will be like the past, which we're assuming something, it doesn't mean that it has to happen. Markets do what markets do. There's no correlation across political parties. There's no relationship between market returns and Republicans or Democrats. And so who knows? I wouldn't be changing your portfolio based on who's going to win. Based on who's going to win. Let's see, what else did I want to say? That's that. I talked about that. Yeah, in one of his rallies the other day in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Trump called the Democratic Party demonic. Demonic. Just remember that demonic. We'll get back to demonic later on. Maybe, if we have time. I don't know if we have time. We'll see. Yeah, anyway, it's going to be interesting. The demographic shifts that people are going to be watching. Hispanics and blacks have shifted toward Trump. Older white women shifted significantly towards Kamala. A typically conservative group, older white women, have shifted significantly towards Kamala. But all of this is polling, and it's and we don't know. And exit polls will be interesting. And then the real results, of course, will be what will be really, really, really interesting. and I guess we will see the results. All right. So that is what I have to say about the election. It's I don't know. I'm finding myself not being particularly worried about it. I don't know. I'm just rolling with it. I think Donald Trump will be good for the Yaron Brook show. I think Kamala Harris will be less good. I think Kamala will be better for the country than Donald Trump. So I figure I'm going to roll with it. Either way, we'll find some sunshine, and we will survive. We'll survive as a country. We'll survive as an economy, maybe, and we will survive. And I'm just excited for tomorrow night to see how it plays out. I'm interested in how it plays out, and really worried about Donald Trump winning. I mean, I'm not worried about Kamala winning because Kamala's just same old. She'll just be the same. I'm really worried about Trump winning. But I'm also like, if he wins, okay, then we'll deal with it, right? We'll deal with it. It'll be fun to spend 4 years just attacking the U.S. government constantly. And everything he proposes, because I think I will be in that position. Right. All right. Let's see. I've got two pieces of mildly good news. Oh, one mildly, one good. I don't know if we want to do Tucker or not. Anyway, well, let's do Tucker quickly. Should I do Tucker quickly? I really don't have to say anything. I just need to show you the video, because I don't think you need my interpretation of this. It's a minute 55.
Nuclear technology in the first place, which are not human.
What happened? Stop it, Tucker. Nobody asked you to talk. All right, so let me show you this video. Partially because I mentioned demonic earlier. I want you to watch. Now, I don't know if you saw the story that I posted, or did I show it? No, I don't think I showed the one where he was attacked by demons in the night. Did you hear this one where he says he was attacked by demons in the night and he literally had scratch marks under his arms that the demons left in him? Now, he was in bed with his wife and like 4 dogs, but he blamed the demons for this. So the guy's lost his mind. Literally lost his mind. And under normal circumstances, like I'm not showing you Candace Owen, because I don't think Candace Owen is going to have any say in the next administration. I don't think anybody in the administration cares. But, Tucker Carlson addressed the Republican National Convention. Tucker Carlson is very close to J.D. Vance. Tucker Carlson is very close to Trump Jr. And I think Tucker Carlson has the potential to have a voice in this administration. So I think it's important to expose you to what Tucker Carlson has become. The demons, yeah, I mean, I don't know what it was, but I mean, maybe it was demons. Do you know? Can you prove that it wasn't demons? But anyway, I'm not going to show you that video because that video is just nuts. It's just insane. This video has content that is insane. Nick says, I'm not voting for Tucker Carlson. That's good, but by voting for Trump, you are voting for Tucker Carlson. By voting for Trump, you're voting for the Tucker Carlson, view. You're voting for that part of the Republican Party. You're voting for a leader in the MAGA, which Tucker Carlson is. You're voting for somebody who has influence in the White House. Tucker Carlson is partially part of this administration. By the way, did you hear RFK? I missed this one. RFK over the weekend saying that Trump has told him that on day one that he becomes president, the administration will ban the use of fluoride in water. The use of fluoride in water. So we can finally, the water authorities will stop poisoning all of us. Somebody did a calculation on how many lives that would cost. But, this is who you're voting for. You're not voting for Trump. You're voting for the dream team. And Tucker's part of that dream team. You're voting for RFK. You're voting for no fluoride in the water as a priority for the Trump administration. Pretty amazing. All right. Anyway, here we go. This is Tucker Carlson. Where's my play button? Why is there no play button?
Nuclear technology in the first place, which are not human forces, obviously. And let me just ask you this, which I've asked a million people at dinner parties, but never in public. What was the moment we can point to that nuclear technology was invented? You know, we can point to Isaac Newton and say, what apple fell on his head? Or we can point to Albert Hoffman in his lab messing around with the, ergot bacteria. That's when LSD was made. I've never met a person who can isolate the moment where nuclear technology became known to man.
So new technology, there's no moment in which this happened. No scientist figured this out. Now, he's ignoring the very reality that Einstein figured it out. And many others in different ways, right, during that period. There wasn't a bunch of German scientists in Germany. And his conclusion is, and he starts out by saying, nuclear technology didn't come from man. Nuclear technology did not come from man. So here's the rest of it.
And so where did it come from exactly?
Where did it come from?
Oh, German scientists in the 30s. Really, when? Name the date. And I've never heard anybody do that. It's very clear to me that these are demonic. I mean, these are...
Nuclear technology is demonic. Now, he's saying it in a way that doesn't suggest the demons, but it's demonic. It came from demons. It came from evil demons. I mean, we'll see in a minute. It came from Christian-hating devils. It came from the devil. I mean, this is Tucker Carlson. This is not some crazy evangelical. This is not some whack job somewhere. This is Tucker Carlson telling us that nuclear technology came from the Antichrist, and he's got the ear of the President of the United States. He has a bigger following than almost anybody. I mean, Rogan has a bigger following, but he's been on Rogan. He's huge on Rogan. Lucas says Lisa Meitner is the German scientist who discovered fission in the late 1920s. Yeah, I think I saw a paper. What's his name? Because there was a talk at the conference at OCON about nuclear fission, and I think I saw a paper that said that. So thank you, Luca. It was Lisa Meitner. Somebody might want to text Tucker that Lisa Meitner is the Antichrist.
Evil. Their only purpose is to destroy the innocent, to murder the innocent.
Only purpose of nuclear bombs is to destroy and murder the innocent.
They've only been used once, and I think there's an interesting ethical debate about their use. Was Truman right or whatever? But if you take 3 steps back, you could say, well, wait a second. If you end up killing, incinerating tens of thousands of civilians, that's just a bad thing. Let's just be honest. That's just a bad thing. And anyone who does that is going to pay consequences. It's just true. And by the way, the fact the second bomb was dropped on the Christian population of Japan, which was majority in Nagasaki. In fact, it was sighted in on a church in Nagasaki. Was that an accident? Why Nagasaki exactly? And by the way, why has every subsequent American war resulted in disproportionately the deaths of Christians? That would include Vietnam, by the way, where the Catholic population was decimated, up to and including Iraq and Syria, now in Russia. Why is it that our use of force consistently since the end of the Second World War has been against Christians? That's been the effect, to kill Christians. The bombing of the Balkans in the 90s under NATO. Why is that?
I thought you had to see that, right? I mean, and all in the name of Christianity, all about Christianity. Nick says John Bolton has more influence on Trump than Tucker Carlson. Nick, you can rationalize and deceive your way into believing that if you want. That's fine. Go for it. What the hell? This is the same argument as Trump is playing 4D chess. But you know very well that John Bolton has zero influence on the Trump administration, zero influence on Trump, and that reality is that Tucker Carlson is friendly with Trump. The reality is that Tucker Carlson is very, very friendly with J.D. Vance. And the reality is that Tucker Carlson is very close to Trump's children. And the reality is that John Bolton did not speak at the national convention. You say Tucker is a journalist. Bolton was fired from the cabinet. Tucker is a journalist, but Tucker spoke at the Republican National Convention. Journalists don't do that. Tucker's not a journalist. Tucker, to quote Mary Eileen, is a batshit crazy advocate, representative of MAGA, with millions of followers, not for his journalism. Tucker Carlson hasn't done journalism in 20 years, but for his commentary. Ryan says the Overton window has been shattered. Absolutely. The Overton window is the window of acceptable beliefs on the Christian, wacky, conspiratorial right. The Overton window has been shattered. There is no limit to how batshit crazy you can go on the right. It's unbelievable. And again, I cannot vote for a candidate who is associated, even indirectly, with a Tucker Carlson. Now, I know there's some woke crazies on the left. Tucker has a much bigger following than them. Much bigger following than them. If you add up all the woke, real woke, dedicated woke, Antifa woke, they don't add up to as many people as the people who follow Tucker Carlson. The guy's a nutcase. It's not a matter of liking his ideas or not. It's not even at the level of liking ideas. The guy is nuts. And he's nuts in the direction of a crazy fascist, pro-Hitler. You saw that historian he interviewed. Insane religious nationalist ideas that at the end of the day resonate with the base of Donald Trump's coalition, of Donald Trump's people. All right. Let's go for some good news. Oh, we got one more bad news. So one more bad news, and then we'll go to good news. Okay, so rumors have it, intelligence sources are basically saying, a variety of intelligence sources are saying, that tomorrow night, as the votes are going to be counted in the United States, Iran will launch a multi-pronged attack on Israel. There are all kinds of speculations about what that will look like, but it could be as many as 400 ballistic missiles, together with drones and a variety of different ballistic missiles, including ballistic missiles with much larger warheads than the ones that Iran has launched in the past. Iran is promising this will show the Israelis this is going to be all out, this is going to be unbelievable. They sound like Donald Trump. And this is going to be the greatest attack ever. The best, the greatest. We're going to win it all. And they do sound like Donald Trump. I just had this thought, but they sound a lot like Donald Trump. And, you know, so it's going to be if it lives up to expectations, it's going to be a massive strike. I don't know if it'll happen tomorrow night, but they, I think, want to make a point of doing it on election night. And, of course, election night is one where we don't know yet who the president is, and there's a sense in which there is no president. Maybe they view it as some kind of advantage. They're going to use, supposedly, assets in Iran, in Iraq, and in Yemen and in Syria. They're also going to launch from Syria so as basically to overwhelm the air defense systems of the Israelis. The United States has basically said that they will help the Israelis shoot all this down. Not only do they have the THAAD systems, 2 systems in Israel, but they have air defense assets all over the Middle East, particularly off the coasts, and they are probably going to be utilizing those as well to help Israel defend itself from this massive aerial attack. But there will be, or likely to be, a massive aerial attack tomorrow. Of course, this will then set up Israel for response. It'll set up Israel for response without there being an administration in Washington, really. There'll be a lame duck president. Israel might not even know who the next president is going to be, which will be interesting. But the elections will have happened already. They can't be accused of trying to influence the elections, because there was some accusations about Israel maybe trying to influence the elections by how they responded. I'll say this. I say it all the time. Nobody listens to me anyway, so I'll say this. This is a once-in-a-lifetime, once-in-a-millennia opportunity for Israel, if you want to tax it, to basically kill off the Iranian regime. They have the means, they have the excuse, and the timing couldn't be better without a president in the United States. I mean, imagine if the United States hands over to the next president of the United States fait accompli of an Iran that has a new regime. I mean, it changes the Middle East forever. It changes the dynamics forever. It probably won't happen because Israel's not brave enough to do it. It probably won't happen because the Biden administration will pull all the stops to prevent it from happening. But I can't help but fantasize and wish and hope. I said it in Hebrew yesterday on my Hebrew show, but Israel has the capacity, has the opportunity, and of course, if the United States chooses to participate, the United States did warn the Iranians that if Iran launches this attack, the United States would, A, not be in a position to hold the Israelis back, and B, might participate. The United States has flown five B-52s into the Middle East. Have you ever seen a B-52? B-52s, these are massive bombers. They carry nuclear weapons, capable of carrying nuclear weapons, which I don't think they are carrying in this mission. But they are capable of carrying 35,000 ton, or pound, what is it, pound? Bunker-busting bombs. These are the bombs that can actually destroy Iran's nuclear capabilities, no matter how deep in the ground they are buried. Lucas says 6 B-52s. Why the hell the United States needs 6 B-52s in Iran, in the Middle East? I have no idea, right? 1 would probably be enough. They have 6. And they could have flown them in from the United States, bombed Iran and flown back. But they are now in either Saudi Arabia or Qatar, in the Al Udeid Air Force Base. Is that the one in Qatar or in Saudi Arabia? They're positioned to basically destroy Iran. I mean, Iran has no capacity to shoot down or really do anything about these B-52s. There's nothing they can do. They don't have their defense systems. They don't have their airplanes, particularly not if you've got F-16s and F-35s flying with them. Israel's already knocked out their entire S-300 air defense systems. There's nothing left. Basically, the United States would have, and Israel would have, complete control of the airspace. We know what Israel can do. You can see that in Lebanon and in Gaza. The 6 of them are in Qatar, where it's the largest Air Force base in the Middle East, the United States Air Force Base in the Middle East, in Qatar of all places, but that's a whole other question. Anyway, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. So again, election night might also include a massive attack on Israel. It's very, very hard to tell what weapons they might be using. There's some claim that they could even be using. I don't know anything about these. They say, so this is a senior researcher at the Washington Institute is claiming that this attack is going to happen tomorrow. He's talking about 400 missiles, ballistic missiles. Why is this not opening? Yeah, I need my new Mac. Can't arrive here fast enough. No, that's not what I wanted to open. 1 second. I'll open it up in a minute. That's what I want to open. He's carrying 400 missiles aimed at Israeli defense bases and sites, as well as defense manufacturing industries around the city of Haifa. That's, by the way, where my brother works. He works at the defense manufacturing industry around the city of Haifa. It's likely to utilize medium-range ballistic missiles, as well as missiles launched by Iranian-backed groups in Iraq and possibly Syria. The Iranian army is expected to participate, likely using its long-range attack drones and their Su-24 Mk tactical bombers. Now, that will be fun. Sorry. I mean, I have this weird sense of fun, I guess. Watching the Israeli Air Force shoot down Su-24 Mks, like shooting, a fish in a barrel. I hope the Iranians have the balls to put their Su-24s into the sky. And we'll see how long they last up there. We'll see how long they last up there. I don't know. I don't know if Fazine Nadimi, the senior researcher at the Washington Institute, has any particular insight that about this. He is an expert on Iran, I guess. But I assume he knows something of what he's talking about. But I don't know that anybody really knows what's going to happen and whether it's going to happen tomorrow. But it does seem like from what the Supreme Leader has been saying, Supreme Leader of Iran has been saying, it does seem like he's building up to that. He is building up to that. All right, what else? I want to say, one other thing about Iran. I don't know if you saw this video over the weekend, but there's a video out of this young woman. I mean, it's heart-wrenching. Of a young woman in Iran who was attacked and harassed by the morality police. And she just snapped. And she basically took her clothes off. And she's in her underwear. It's fairly cold. You can see how other people are dressed. She's in her underwear, walking around. This is in University of Tehran, walking around in her underwear. And people are just walking around, kind of don't know what to make of it, of the whole thing, right? You don't see women. I mean, in America, a woman walking in her underwear down the street wouldn't even, get us to even glance. But it'd be surprised at all because half the clothes they wear are like underwear. But here, it's Iran. She takes off all her clothes. She walks around in underwear. People are in just shock. And, she is basically giving them the middle finger. She's basically giving them the middle finger. And she's there on video for quite a few minutes. Now, supposedly, we don't see this on video. She's then arrested. And she has not been heard of since. And speculation is she's been tortured and murdered by the Iranian regime. This video is circulating all over the web. We should very much it'll be interesting if something happens to her. Really, will Iranian women go back out into the streets? Will Iranian demonstrations of going back out in the streets correspond with an Israeli attack? How does that all play out? I mean, these are very, very interesting times in Iran, but just so sad. I mean, she was dressed under, she had pretty, what do you call it, conservative underwear. So she was more dressed than the women in the gym where I did my physical therapy today. And yet it was a shock to the people walking around the streets of Tehran. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know how much this will cause stuff how much it'll actually, what will happen in Iran as a consequence of this, but there it is. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just looking. It just came out that Polymarket, the betting odds for the election, Trump is still up 58-42 over Harris. He was up to 60-something% on Friday, I think, or Thursday or Friday. So he's come down quite a bit, but he's still a significant margin on the betting odds. It's a thin market, so it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much for those kind of odds to shift when somebody makes an investment one way or the other. Let's see. Interesting story is out. That's an interesting story. The Israeli Ministry of Defense has called out the security forces to round up the ultra-Orthodox Jews who refuse to be enlisted in the army. That is bound to create major havoc within Netanyahu's coalition. And just one other piece of news, it seems like Ukrainian forces in the Kursk region of Western Russia have had their first engagement with North Korean troops. Again, that'll be interesting. I think what they should really do is drop flyers on the North Koreans, basically saying anybody who surrenders will be granted asylum in Western Europe and transferred to a country of their choice in Western Europe if they surrender. And I wonder what will happen if the North Korean soldiers have that option in front of them. That's what I would do. I would drop flyers on them. All right. Let's see. Let's skip that. We could go on and on and on forever, me scanning the news right now and seeing what else is available. So I wanted to end today on two positive stories. What was the other positive story? Did it disappear on me? There it is. Two quick positive stories. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but just remind you of them. One is going back to Moldova. If you remember, Moldova last week had a referendum about whether to join the EU or not. Russia spent a lot of money on buying votes, literally paying people to vote against Moldova joining the EU. In spite of that, Moldova, by a very, very, very thin margin, Moldova voted to join the EU. So Moldova will probably, in spite of the fact that it doesn't quite meet the standards of EU membership, will probably be fast-tracked into the EU, which is great. Again, it's another country leaving Moscow's orbit, leaving Russian influence. This is a country that has been under the thumb of Russia since the breakup of the Soviet Union and is now going to be part of Western Europe. I consider Western Europe a gazillion times better than Russia with all its problems. And I think for a country like this, membership in the EU is a massive boost to the quality of life, standard of living, and potential for freedom within Moldova. Over the weekend, on Sunday, there was a presidential election. Again, a presidential election that pitted a pro-Western incumbent, Maya Sandu, against a pro-Russia representative, the pro-Russian Socialist Party. He represented the Socialist Party. And she won. And again, in spite of the fact that the pro-Russian candidate got massive support from Russia and from a particular oligarch who spent a lot of money to try to get him elected, the pro-EU, the pro-Western Europe candidate won by 54 to 45 by a pretty big margin, and that's great. That's great, and now we'll see if they can also score victory in parliamentary elections next summer, and overall, Moldova looks like it's heading towards the European Union, which I think is good for Moldova. I think it's good for Moldova. It's good for the European Union, and it's very bad for Russia. And I'm 100% in on anything that's very bad for Russia. All right, finally, I want to talk a little bit about Milei. Partially because there's just a bunch of news that came out over the weekend around Milei. And then just on articles. I don't think there's anything revolutionary new that has come out about Milei, but I think that it is. Anyway, a lot of stories about how he's doing. I will also be in Argentina a week from today. So I will be in Argentina Monday, Tuesday next week. So I will be able to report to you firsthand about what I observe, the people I talk to. I'll be talking to a lot of Argentinians. I'll be very curious to see what they think and what they think about Milei and about what's going on in Argentina and how he's doing and so on. So I thought I'd prep you with just a little info about this. When Milei, won the election in late 2023, late last year, U.S. dollar-denominated, dollar-priced Argentinian bonds, that is, dollar-priced Argentinian bonds, were basically trading, south of 30 cents on the dollar. 30 cents on the dollar. And that is basically a reflection of the fact that a lot of people who own those bonds, or a lot of people trading those bonds, did not believe that the Argentinian government would ever pay them back. That is, they were discounting them by 70%. And this is in dollars, so inflation is not a factor here. Argentinian inflation is not a factor here. They had bottomed out in the middle of 2022 at under 20 cents on the dollar, so they were a little bit better, but they were not good. 30 cents, under 30 cents, about 27, 28 cents on the dollar. Basically last week, Argentinian bonds closed at over 70 cents on the dollar. So if you think about, again, as a sign of confidence in the ability of Argentina to pay its debts, we're close to break even. We're close to a buck. And that means that people are dramatically reassured. The markets are suggesting that they really do believe that Argentina is on the right path and that it will be able to pay back its debt. And that is huge. So that is one measure of what is going on. Another is when Milei was elected in 2023, late 2023, he basically faced a massive government deficit. Massive government deficit. The budget was unbalanced, and there was huge spending, and there was very little revenue coming in. And he very, very quickly, by cutting government spending dramatically, and by tinkering a little bit with the tax system, including raising some taxes, has basically brought the government spending into balance. So Argentina has done something the United States has not done since, I think, the year 2000 or 99, 2000, the year 2000, which is have a balanced budget. And that's astounding for a country that just was spending like there was no tomorrow. And he did this very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. And decisively, and the right way, which is to cut spending, cut employees, cut overhead, reduce the scale of government. Not yet the scope, a little bit the scope, but not yet the scale. As a consequence of that, Argentinians now have significant foreign currency reserves. So foreign currency reserves are important because they have to use those foreign currencies in order to pay interest on the bonds and to, when the bonds expire, to pay bondholders back. Bondholders want dollars. They don't want pesos. And so Milei, the central bank he promised to abolish, but he hasn't yet, has been able to increase the amount of dollars they have. And at the same time, the central bank is basically, the growth of the money supply in Argentina right now is basically zero. The central bank is not printing any money. In other words, it is not buying any peso-denominated bonds in the market, which is the way in which you inject money into the economy. It's not monetizing any government debt because the government is running a surplus. There is no debt to monetize. So that is huge for the Argentinian economy. And again, when I'm in Argentina in a week, hopefully I'll do a show from there and I will be able to let you know how it's going. In the meantime, as a consequence of this dramatic decrease in the amount of money the central bank is printing, is issuing, while inflation spiked when Milei first came into power because of the massive devaluation of the currency that he did, inflation is now at well below the rate when he took over. Way, way, way below the peak rate, which was 25% a month earlier, I think in January of this year. And it is now still high. It's about 3%, 2.something% a month, which is way too high. But it's way down and heading lower and heading lower. So inflation is significantly lower. It's back to where it was in the period between 2018 and 2022. Before it kind of took the next jump upwards. In the meantime, Argentinians have been increasing their dollars held in their bank accounts significantly. And this is huge if Milei ultimately wants to dollarize the economy. He has to convince Argentinians that it is safe for them to have their savings in dollars in the bank, not in the mattress, but in the bank. And early on, the first few months, there was a slight increase in deposits, maybe from something like 16 billion to maybe 18 billion. But then it kind of flatlined. It increased a little bit, slowly. But then, since this summer, it has exploded. And basically, dollar-denominated deposits in Argentina, which is a real measure of confidence of the people in the future economic plan and the confidence of the people that this money will not be confiscated. These are dollars. This is real saving. Basically, has gone from, what was it, when he took office, 16 billion to over 32 billion, so more than double. And that's huge. That is huge. The gap between the official rate, he still has capital controls. I think those will go away next year, but he still has capital controls, where the government sets the exchange rate. But the difference between those capital controls and the black market is slowly shrinking. It's relatively low right now. And the peso is slowly being depreciated at 2% a month, I think 2% a month. And the black market is coming up, and so is the value of the peso, and they're slowly converging. When they converge, supposedly, is the time when he can get rid of the capital controls. It also opens up the possibility of then dollarizing and getting rid of the central bank. And this is all of this is being done. Now, granted, there's some bad news, right? Poverty skyrocketed in Argentina. 50% of Argentinians now are categorized as below the poverty rate. In spite of that, Milei has kept his popularity. It's down a little bit from when he was elected, but it is still high for an Argentinian president, very high. The level of confidence in the government is at one of the highest points it's been. Again, it was higher when he was first elected. It's come down, but it hasn't come down by a lot. And given how much pain many Argentinians have suffered in the interim, this is why. Now, a lot of that pain is a consequence of the fact that Milei has not been able to do all the things that he would have liked to do. Privatize, cut government spending even more, tax reform, and lots of other fundamental reforms to the Argentinian economy. And he hasn't been able to do that because the parliament will not cooperate. So all of this is being achieved in spite of the fact that Argentinian parliament is not cooperating with him. Not cooperating with him. Imagine if they were, and this is, I think, the goal ultimately for Milei. Milei's political party is very small. He has a coalition with a centrist party, but even together, they control less than a third of the seats in parliament. He can't really get anything passed. Can't really get anything passed. What Milei is hoping for is to do well enough over the next year and to keep his popularity high over the next year so that in the next Argentinian elections, I think either in late night 25 or early 26 maybe, he can field a political party that will win a significant place in parliament. And then, either by itself, or, which is unlikely, but let's say form a coalition where he can actually pass his more radical reforms and get Argentina to be the kind of free economic country that it has the potential to be, the kind of free economic country that I think he imagines it could be. So, we've got a year to suffer through him having to deal with parliament. And then his hope is, and I'm not sure he can fulfill this, but his hope is that he can dominate parliament or get enough votes in parliament to be able to pass the rest of his reforms. So it will be interesting. We will see what happens. I'm excited about being in Argentina next week to get a sense of it firsthand. Milei has been invited to the events that I'm doing. The probability that it actually comes is probably close to zero, but he was invited. We will see. All right, let's see. All right. So remind everybody that the show is listener supported. It is made possible through contributions of listeners like you, whether you are here live or you are listening not live. You guys make this show possible. You make this show possible by either contributing on Patreon, which you can do by going to Yaron Brook Show on Patreon and making a monthly contribution. I really, really, really appreciate that. And if you could do that, that would be great. I've got a very ambitious 2025 for the Patreon and for PayPal. You can also go to PayPal and do the same thing. You can go to my website, yaronbrookshow.com. yaronbrookshow.com. It's a new website. Hopefully you'll like it, and you can make a contribution through there. So please consider supporting the show, YaronBrookShow.com. We're discussing Papa this evening at 7 p.m. East Coast time. 7 p.m. East Coast time this evening, we'll be discussing Call Papa. Those of you here live can support the show by asking a question called Super Chat, or by doing a sticker. Either way, there's $1 attached to that, and you can support the show. We are short of our second-hour goal. We still got 40 minutes to reach it, so I'm pretty confident that you guys will come through. 4 $50 questions would get us there. 8 $20 questions will get us there. So by combination of something like that would be great. So you can also do a sticker if you don't have a question. It's an easier way to support the show. It would be great if we continue November by making our goals and setting us up, particularly given that I'm going to be gone a lot in November. We're not going to have as many shows as we did in October. So I won't be asking you for as much money, I guess, day to day. So please consider supporting the show today while we have a show, so that we can make our numbers. And we have 2 main sponsors of the show. One is Alex Epstein, alexepstein.substack.com. Alex is a world expert, the world expert, not a world expert, on fossil fuels, energy, climate change, and environmentalism. And the great thing, the benefit to you of subscribing to Alex's is you get to tap this amazing mind and everything that he knows on an issue that you probably engage in with coworkers, family members, friends. Climate change, everybody talks about it all the time. Less so this election year, but suddenly if Trump gets elected or if Kamala gets elected, they have very, 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 very different climate policies. And it'll be in the news. It'll be all over the place. And what you get from Alex, a succinct, punchy, but well-documented, well-referenced talking points on all of this, on all these issues. And you could just, so it's incredibly valuable. You can even, because there's an Alex AI, just ask the Alex AI question and get an answer. Now, you don't have to believe Alex, not his talking points, and not the AI. Alex has books and articles and interviews where he can, validate all his claims, and you can go check the original articles, the science, the graphs, the actual data that justifies what he says. So all of that is accessible to you if you go to alexepstein.substack.com. The Ayn Rand Institute is of course the place where, if you want to know about objectivism, the Ayn Rand Institute is the place to go. They are the teachers of objectivism, and the Ayn Rand University in particular is where you can study objectivism. I encourage everybody to sign up to the Ayn Rand University, whether as an auditor or if you're really serious about this, take it as real courses with homework and exams and everything else. And what did I want to say? Now, right now, the Ayn Rand Institute is trying to encourage you, particularly the student, but even though non-student in a technical sense, but a student studying objectivism, wanting to know more about objectivism, to sign up for one of our Ayn Rand conferences. Ayn Rand conferences, we're going to have one in Brisbane in December, one in Austin, Texas in February, and one in Berlin, Germany in March. And I'm hoping that many of you will sign up and attend. And those of you who cannot afford to pay the tuition to attend, or the flight, or the hotel, apply for scholarship. Apply for a scholarship. Now, you can access all this information about the Ayn Rand University and Ayn Rand conferences at aynrand.org/start here. aynrand.org/start here. All right. David has a question. We're going to go to our super chats. And David has 2 questions for $50. So I answer his questions first, because on the Yaron Brook Show, money talks. We're capitalists here. Money talks. So David says, you met Ben Shapiro. Did he come across as a charlatan? What is his excuse for shilling for Trump? No, I don't think Ben Shapiro is a charlatan in the sense of everything's fake. But I do think Ben Shapiro knows, where his wealth comes from. Ben Shapiro, at this point, is fairly wealthy. He has a very high income. He has done very, very well for himself. But it's not only income. He has a massive following. He has a lot of people who follow him. And he has a lot of influence, I think, in the culture on the right. And he knows. He knew this when I met him. I can't remember when that was. What was that? 2019, it was 2019, 2020, 2021, something like that. Was it before COVID or after COVID? I just don't remember. Anyway, he knows. He knows that he will lose that influence if he turns against Trump. Trump is the dominant player on the right. Everybody else is riding on his coattails. And to some extent, so is Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro, whether he likes Trump or not, he knows he has to play along. Now, I think what's happened, because this is what happens to decent people in these circumstances, is that they convince themselves that they're not selling out. They convince themselves they're not compromising. They convince themselves they're not hypocrites. And they make the best argument they can to themselves. And you can hear that argument when you listen to Ben Shapiro, particularly, if you listen to his debate with Sam Harris. But, just think of Ben Shapiro, a conservative Jew, and the issue of character. It's just a no-brainer that he couldn't be pro-Trump. Now, he might not be able to be pro-Kamala either. But again, there's a difference between being pro-Trump, and there's a difference between that and saying a pact in both their houses, which he does not say, because he knows what will happen if he does. He loses his influence. He loses a lot of his wealth. He loses a lot of his following. And that's a reality. I mean, I felt it, right? If I had come out pro-Trump over the last 8 years, I'm pretty sure I would have a dramatically larger following than I do. A dramatically larger following than I do. But, so a lot of people have made the calculation and figured they are now willing to give that up. David says, why was Ayn Rand anti-Papa? His falsification theory is the most accepted idea in demarcation of what is not science. David, I'm going to have to encourage you to listen to the show tonight, because that's a big question, and we will answer it. But basically, objectivism rejects the falsification theory. It rejects that view of science. Papa was a rationalist in the tradition, in the philosophical tradition. He's not somebody who starts from observation, which is what objectivism does. Papa also claimed to be against induction. Induction is at the core of the entire objectivist epistemology. It's at the core of what we are. But you know what? I'm gonna leave it up here so that I make sure that I'm sure we'll get to it anyway, because this is the whole point of talking about Papa. But we'll talk about the falsification theory. I'll talk with Mike about the falsification theory. He can go into detail. So I'll leave it up here as an unanswered question so we can definitely cover it tonight. Ryan says, 20 Canadian dollars to help pay for the Mac Mini. My M1 Mini is going strong still. That's great. I mean, my Intel i7 2018 Mac Mini with 48 gigabytes of RAM or 64 gigabytes, whatever it is still going strong. But it's not strong enough, given the burden I'm putting on it. It's not strong enough, and it's already 6 years old, and it's time to get that M4. So working on it. It's on the way. It's in the mail. It's coming. It's being assembled in China somewhere, and it's on the way. It'll be here early December. So when I get back home on December 13th, after I say hello to my wife, one of my top priorities will be to assemble the new Mac, get it going, get it running, and And we'll have the shows in December, at least some of them, on the new Mac. And then we'll also talk about what other changes we make to the studio here. Adri just did a $50 sticker. Thank you, Adri. Really, really appreciate that. And I noticed that John also did a sticker. Thank you, John. And Mike Dial and Mary Aline. I think I got the others earlier. Mary Aline again. And so thank you for all the stickers, but particularly Adri for $50. That is terrific. That is terrific, and it gets us much, 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 much closer to our target, right? We're only $94 short, so not many questions short. Let's see, Thomas. If we were on a true gold standard and a large quantity of new gold was suddenly discovered without any other significant growth in productivity, would that be inflationary? Yes, it would be one-time inflationary. That is, prices would adjust upwards it wouldn't happen all once, but over time they would adjust upwards to take into account the new quantity of gold, but and the increased growth rate of gold. But and if there was no increase in productivity from then on, then yes, but that's assuming a lot. But again, it would be inflationary low single digits. It's not going to be inflationary in high single digits or 25% a month like in Argentina. More money chasing the same number of goods causes the goods prices to go up. All else held constant. Oh, that reminds me. I can gift some memberships. It's a new month, so I can do that. Membership gifting. There we go. 10 memberships left to gift this month. Gift 5 now. All right, we'll gift 5 now. All right, just gifted 5 memberships. I know I'm supposed to do a members-only show, and I'm behind now again on the music, short story, and TV episodes. I can never catch up. I never manage. I make a dent, and then whoop, things overtake it, and I don't catch up. All right, Ryan says, Trump will once again prove he is the only person capable of losing to the left, and whoever they put on the ballot, but it will be close, and chaos will ensue. Very sad state of affairs. That'll be interesting. It's. I think there's a high probability what Ryan says is true. It will come to be. Paul, thanks for bringing us these videos. It brings clarity to the kind of emotionality his followers will believe. Yeah. I mean, it's a little scary. It's very scary, I think. Oh, David says, if Golda were PM right now, would she preempt Iran's strike with an Israeli attack on the missile launches? I don't know. I mean, she didn't in the Yom Kippur War at the behest of Nixon and Kissinger. She didn't. Why would we think she would do it today? I don't know that Israeli government was stronger than this Israeli government in terms of doing it. I don't know which Israeli government would. If Naftali Bennett was prime minister, would he? I don't know. But again, we've got a data point for Golda Meir, and that data point is the Yom Kippur War, where she did not preempt, where she sat on it, and a lot of kids died as a consequence. A lot of kids died. Robert Nasir, who'd have thunk that I'd actually, kinda, not really, miss the old GOP. But now that it has been replaced root and branch by the cult of Trump, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? Yeah, but even now that it's gone, we know it wasn't that good. And that's why you have to say, kinda, not really, because, yeah, well, we don't really miss that old GOP, do we? But yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you mean. The old GOP was far superior to this GOP. And look, and this is the point, I've been making this for years now. We need an opposition party. We need an opposition party that just a little bit pushes back against ever-encroaching statism. Just a teeny little bit would be better than zero. Or, what we've got today is a competition. with the Democrats on who can be more statist, who can violate our rights more. So in that sense, I miss the old GOP, who at least teeny bitsy wise, once in a while, challenged the Democrats in that movement towards greater and greater statism. The Godfather. I don't understand how an pact between U.S. and Iran in the 70s fell apart. How was Israel and Iran's relationship during this period? Did the U.S. failed pact with Iran contribute to Israel's increased hostility towards Israel? Oh, God. I mean, it's a big question in a sense of the history, but basically, Israel's relationship with Iran was mixed. There was no formal relationship, but Iran was behind the scenes quite friendly to Israel. It exported oil to Israel. The Shah of Iran exported oil to Israel. The Shah was very pro-Western and tried to bring Western values into Iran. There's definitely a strong Western influence within Iran. But he was also very authoritarian. And he was known for his secret police torturing his opposition and doing horrible things to opposition elements. And not being for political freedom. And the consequence of this is that in the background, Ayatollah Khomeini, who was in France, in Paris at the time, was building up a following within Iran. And Khomeini was very, very smart in that he latched onto two threads to attack the Shah. One was religion. And of course, he was an imam, and a very senior imam, and he was an Islamist, and he came at it from the perspective of Islam. The second was socialism. He actually preached socialism and even preached democracy. It's an Islamist form of democracy, but so he basically captured the imagination, not only of the religious elements in Iran, which were still substantial, primarily among the shopkeepers in Iran, the people from the marketplace, but also among the young, the students, who were attracted to his socialism. Now, he was never a socialist, and once he got into power, he killed all the socialists, but he got them excited about his coming revolution, and the revolution was an Islamist socialist revolution. And he was very clever. And, the Shah's regime was corrupt. It also increased inequality, which, the socialists played to. And that's how the Shah became unpopular. He got sick. He left Iran. There were demonstrations. There were riots. And the United States decided it would not support him because he had been such an awful authoritarian. So it stepped back from the support, and as soon as they stepped back from the support, Ayatollah Khomeini came back to Iran. There was a massive populist movement, overthrew the regime, and instilled the Islamist regime that we have. The hatred of Israel comes comes primarily from the Islam, from the Islamism, the idea that the Jews don't belong in the Middle East, particularly as a political entity. And the Ayatollah Khomeini's commitment to global jihad, which Khamenei has reasserted, and which Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis and everybody else are all committed to. So that's a short version of what happened. Richard, thanks for the membership gift. I think Tucker Carlson is part of Trump's nightmare team, along with Marjorie Taylor Greene and RFK. Yes, and what's her name? The Democratic Congresswoman from Hawaii, who's a bit of a nutcase as well, and a bunch of others. I mean, there's a lot of people in that nightmare team. But yes, I very much think Tucker Carlson is part of that team. David, why do people never learn from past mistakes? Counter-revolutions always make things worse and for the people they are liberated. I mean, that's one of the smaller things that people don't learn. People don't learn that socialism always fails. People don't learn from the past that altruism kills. And I think the reason people don't learn from the past is people allow their learning, that allow their interpretation of reality to be completely guided by their ideology, by their philosophy. And their philosophy is a philosophy of collectivism and altruism and mysticism. And as a consequence, there's no space to learn. There's no place to learn. You know, if socialism doesn't work, then it didn't work this time. It might work next time. If counter-revolution didn't work this time, but counter-revolution is right. The man needs to be, replaced. Replaced with what? Does it matter? No, the main thing is just replace the man. All of that is a consequence of bad ideas. Bad ideas. So ideas shape how most people interpret the data they get from reality, how they interpret history, how they interpret political events, how they interpret what's going on in the world. It's complicated. And you need to be able to figure out what is a fact, what is an opinion, and take those facts and integrate them in an objective way to understand them. And most people don't do that. Most people let the implicit philosophical premises completely shape their understanding of the world around them. All right, Michael says, prediction, Trump will win. It won't be as catastrophic as people are predicting, and the Objectivist movement will reach the next level, I don't know what that means, over the next 4 years. I hope your prediction about the Objectivist movement is true, comes true, and I hope your prediction about that it won't be as catastrophic as people predict comes true. I am hopeful. Michael says, Hitler says something to the effect of, I'm like a meteor. I came out of nowhere. Trump is probably just as confused by how far he's come as well. I'm not sure Trump is very confused about that. Trump has a very, very good sense of people. Very, very good read of the culture. Maybe he was surprised he won in 2016. I don't think he's been surprised by the support he's gotten since then. Michael, is Milei a fluke or the first wave of many to come in the next decade? I mean, I think he's certainly a fluke at this point. And then whether he is a wave of things to come in the next decade depends on how successful he ultimately is, still very early. And we don't know how successful he will be over the next few decades or over the next decade. And then how many people will take what Milei has done and apply it and make it a part of who they are and use it in politics. So nothing happens automatically. People have to actually do. But Milei also has to deliver, and it's still early. So far, so good. You have to say so far, so good. But he still has to deliver, and to deliver, he needs parliament, and to need parliament, he needs the Argentinian people to still vote for him. This is why some of the measures he's taking are not as radical as we hope. So it's a question of when, and it's a question of how well he does. And then, are there people out there ready to pick up the banner? And I don't know the answer to that. I hope so, but I don't know. Michael, if evil is impotent, why does it keep trying? Well, because the good keeps giving it its sanction. The good keeps allowing it in. The good often encourages it to try. The whole point about evil being impotent, you could ask, well, why does evil exist? Evil exists because the good allows it. Evil exists because the good sanctions it. This is Ayn Rand's whole point about sanction of the victim. Atlas Shrugged, the whole point of Atlas Shrugged is that evil is given an opportunity to thrive and to be successful because the good supplies it with the means by which to do its evil. Without the good, evil is dead. But it captures the good through altruism, through collectivism, through passivity, and the good here is relatively rational, relatively productive, or very rational, very productive, but with a lack of understanding of how evil functions, which is how most businessmen are. Michael says, I must admit, politics and war, that my sons may have liberty to study mathematics and philosophy. John Adams. Oh, sorry, I misread that completely. I must study politics and war, that my sons may have the liberty to study mathematics and philosophy. John Adams. John Adams was a great, great man. And yeah, you could say, I must have a podcast and a YouTube channel and talk about politics, God, boring, and war, God, awful, so that my sons don't have to. And my grandsons, if I ever have any, don't have to go fight in such a war. Michael says, does Trump represent for many Americans meritocracy, no shame and patriotism? Fake. I think to see in Trump meritocracy, no shame and patriotism, it requires real evasion, I think. Because I don't think it's there. Trump is not a patriot. Not if you understand what America is. And it's not a meritocracy. If you actually look at how Trump has done, you know, he didn't do awful given the money his father gave him, but he didn't do that great either. He's just not that good, except at marketing himself. Evitki, something like that. Thanks for Itaewon Class recommendation. Great show. Absolutely. And thanks for promoting the Berlin Conference. I got a scholarship and really looking forward to it. Excellent. So happy you got a scholarship. And please, if you're particularly Europeans, apply for a scholarship. What have you got to lose? Apply. It's aynrand.org/.here. Go for it. Chris Basin. Are they still putting out counting absentee votes until after the day of voting? I'm not sure. Again, all of that is done at the state level. Some states have changed their rules. Some states have not. But a lot of the delays have to do with the methodology of counting, the way they do absentee votes, the way they do mail-in votes. So some states, like Florida, they count the mail-in votes when they get them. So they have them basically counted on election day, whereas others wait and they count them later. So it all depends. It all depends on the state. Every state is different. The Godfather, NVIDIA is moving to the Dow Jones. What is the advantage in doing so? Is there a business reason or a shareholder reason why this may or may not be appealing? The Dow Jones is prestigious, so it gains them prestige. They're not a fly-by-night company. They're now a solid part of the American business world, so it gives them that prestige. They're one of only 30 companies in the United States to be a part of the Dow Jones industrial average, so it makes them a core part of the American economy, so it's a huge prestige. There are certain ETFs and certain strategies where investors buy the Dow Jones Industrial. Not as many as S&P 500, but some that creates demand for NVIDIA stock because of that. But it's not, it's mostly just recognition. It's mostly just prestige. Mary Ellen says he's batshit crazy, and I don't think she meant me. I think she meant Tucker Carlson. I know she meant Tucker Carlson. I'm just kidding. Silvanos, thank you for the $20 sticker. William, thank you for the sticker. Dworski, thank you for the sticker. And as a consequence of all those stickers, we are now at our 2-hour target. As we approach the 2-hour mark, we might go over the 2-hour mark a little bit, or we might just hit it exactly. Graham says, I'm just tuning in now, going to go back and watch this in full. I got some bets on Harris, so I'm hoping for an upset. I don't think it'll be an upset. I don't think there is a favorite right now. Christian says, I dislike Trump and RFK, but I fear we need him against Iran. On the other hand, maybe Israel will emancipate itself from the U.S. if Kamala is in the White House. What do you think? I'm not sure you need him for Iran. I'm not sure Trump will do anything about Iran. I think, again, I've said this many, many times, Trump's instinct vis-a-vis Iran ought to make a deal, ought to sign some kind of deal which will only postpone the need to crush them. I'd rather we not have a deal, and I'd rather we crush them. So, so it's not clear to me who's better for that, Kamala or Trump. They're both bad vis-a-vis Iran. Neither of them is good. And there are a lot of people around Trump who are very pacifist, who are very stay out of the Middle East. Let's just, go home. We don't need this. Raphael, I'm sad about Peanut the Squirrel. Yeah, me too. But you know what? Of all the evils of the regulatory state that they inflict on us every minute of every day of every year of our lives, I'm glad people are upset about this one, but it's not that big of a deal as compared to things that are destructive and destroy human life in scale. So this is very emotional. Peanut the Squirrel was very cute. And it's a huge abuse of government power to do anything about Peanut the Squirrel. But they abuse their power almost every day in various ways that are much more meaningful to human life than that. Jonathan, should the U.S.-Israel leave the Geneva Convention? Yes, I think so. A lot of national conventions should be left, Geneva Convention being one of them. Wolfband, thank you for all your content on Trump, especially the show on why you are no for Trump. You really helped show me how I cannot vote for Trump and his disastrous policy positions. Thank you, Wolfband. I'm glad I was of assistance. Can you talk about Ahed Tamimi, the Great of Gaza? The Great of Gaza. Ahed Tamimi is not ringing a bell right now in my mind. I'm sure if I see something of his, it'll remind me of who he is and what he is. But Ahed Tamimi, I haven't, not in a position to say anything right now. Raphael, Yaron, can I ask, what does your typical day look like? And what do you usually have for breakfast? Oh, God. I usually wake up, hang out with my wife, looking over the ocean. The sun might have risen a little bit, so the sun is streaming through the window in. Have my first cup of coffee. And then I usually have like a little cup full of nuts. Then I'll go work out for an hour. I'll come back home. I'll do a protein shake and a protein mix with walnut milk. I like walnut milk. And yogurt with blueberries. And then my day starts, really. And it depends. So today I had physical therapy, so it started with that. Other days it will start researching for the show. Often it'll involve meetings. ARI related, show related, finance related. But during that period, I'm going to have to do the research because I've got a show at 2:00. So and then 2 to 5 is a show, 2 to 4 is a show, and then I usually go out with my wife to dinner at 5:36. We eat early dinner, and then we come back and we watch TV. Usually, Netflix or something like that. So that's a typical day. While I'm exercising, I'm reading a book, audiobooks. But nuts, yogurt, protein shake, that's my breakfast, I guess. But I kind of eat a little bit throughout the early part of the day until dinner, which is probably not ideal, but got into the habit. Whoop-band, did you see Tucker Carlson claim he woke up with a bloody claw marks on his body after a demon attack? I don't know how people don't think he is insane. Yeah, I talked about that a little bit at the beginning of the earlier in the show. Yes, the guy's insane. The guy's lost it. I don't know if he's certifiably insane, but he's crazy. And the idea that he is very close to the levers of power, very close to the Trump administration, should scare you. should scare you. Christian said, what happened to the Peanut Squirrel owners? Extreme. Police raided the house, at least. In my country, that's reserved for heavy criminals. Sadly, you see stuff like that in the United States quite often for all kinds of things. All kinds of things. And, I mean, there are real problems in the United States in terms of the law has given police powers that they shouldn't have in terms of the ability to invade people's homes and to do things to them that they shouldn't have a right. I'm not even talking about civil forfeiture laws where they can stop you on the road, and if you have cash on you, they can confiscate the cash and the car and everything else. And there's really almost no way for you to claw that money back and get that money back. They just take it and they use it as in the police department. There's a good movie, what was it called? Something Ridge, out on Netflix that I recommend. It's fun. It's a good action movie, but it's infuriating because it's actually a story that could happen to any one of us. Could happen to any one of us. Rebel Ridge? I don't think it's called Rebel Ridge. Maybe it is Rebel Ridge. Anyway, maybe it's Rebel Ridge. You guys should watch Rebel Ridge if you want to see how bad things are in parts of this country. And it's, again, I wish it was fiction. It is fiction in the specifics, but it's not fiction in the principle. Ruby Ridge. Is it Ruby Ridge? No, Ruby Ridge is something else. I think it's Rebel Ridge. Anyway, find it on Netflix. Put Ridge in there and you'll find it. It truly is scary that in the United States of America, something like that could happen, could be, could exist. And it does. Mary says, $50. Thank you, Mary. Really, 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 really appreciate it. If anyone asks, I say I favor the Capitalist Party. I guess I am hoping someone will look it up. That's a good strategy. I like that. I think everybody should do that now. Because if you look it up, you'll find a great platform for a political party. And I think Mark Pellegrino, who is one of the powers behind it, has ambitions to actually field candidates in future elections. So and they have a good platform. So I guess I am hoping someone look it up. I also eat yogurt with blueberries. Yeah, my yogurt is coconut yogurt because I'm allergic to milk products. So I don't eat, I'm definitely allergic to Greek yogurt. So I get a coconut yogurt, which is very tasty, and I do that with blueberries. It's high protein yogurt, breakfast of champions. My problem is that my coconut yogurt is not high in protein. My coconut yogurt is high in fat, but not in saturated fat, among other things, but not in protein. I wish I could find a yogurt that was not dairy, had probiotics, and was high in protein. But I haven't been able to find one. Raphael asked, don't you eat any carbs like bread in the morning? No, I don't eat bread almost ever. Well, that's not true. I eat bread, like the two restaurants in Puerto Rico where they have bread that I like. And I eat, thank you, Mary, really appreciate it. And I eat bread when I go to dinner there. I don't eat muffins. I used to eat, 40 years ago, I used to eat muffins and stuff like that. Don't eat muffins, bagels, nothing. So I eat bread at these two restaurants. So maybe once to twice a week, I'll eat bread. Once in a while, like once in a real while, I'll have pizza. But it's rare, like once a month maybe, once every 2 months, I'll have pizza. But usually without cheese. You guys probably think that's not even pizza. But I generally don't eat donuts. I eat very little sugar. I eat very, very little sugar. The sugar comes from the blueberries, right? That's the sugar I'm going to eat. I'm not going to eat anything that has added, or not anything, but things that have added sugar are rare. Again, if I go to a restaurant, which I go every night, they probably add sugar to the sauces and stuff, and I'm not counting that. But if I control it, I don't eat any added sugar. I eat sugar from fruit and stuff like that. Very rare that I eat pasta, but I do eat more pasta now than I did, I'd say, 5 years ago. But again, rarely. But no bread. No carbs except blueberries in the morning. And no desserts. No desserts. I don't sausage. I don't. Only if I know what who's making it and stuff. I don't know. If I'm eating pasta, I don't care if it's whole grain. If I'm eating pasta, I just eat pasta, whatever they're making. But I generally just don't eat much pasta. I eat very little pasta. I eat. Lucas says pizza without cheese is called focaccia in Italy. Yeah, so I eat focaccia more than pizza. A really good it's a vegetarian focaccia. It's really, really tasty. At our favorite pizza place here. So I like pasta. So I don't eat noodles like Japanese noodles and Korean noodles. I don't eat a lot of rice, although I eat sushi. So I'll eat some sushi. I'll eat some rice with the sushi, but often I'll eat sashimi rather than the rice, rather than nigiri. I eat a low-carb diet. I've ate a low-carb diet for 20 plus years. I mean, it varies over time. I'm probably less low-carb now than I was 6, 7, 8 years ago. But generally low-carb, low-sugar diet is my diet. And now I'm also trying to be low, red meat, saturated fat. But then if I eat too much fish, I eat a lot of fish, I get high mercury in my blood. So balancing it all out is a massive complication. Basically, what you should eat is chicken. Chicken and grass. Those are the things you should eat. I'm kidding. But yeah, it's complicated to get your diet balanced properly. David says, I can attest to Yaron's diet. He doesn't eat dessert. Yeah, I mean, anybody who's been out with me knows that. Been out to dinner or anything with me knows this stuff. But yes, David is absolutely right. He's seen me not eat dessert. I find dessert too sweet now. I don't enjoy dessert. Just don't enjoy dessert. I've discovered this, what do you call the sticks of meat? Anyway, the stick of turkey meat that is basically has no saturated fat. It has a tiny little bit of fat. It has 7 grams of protein and salt. Basically, it has protein and salt, protein and potassium. And those are great. So I eat a lot of those. All right, I have to go. Enough about my diet. I will see you all, I don't know when. Maybe tomorrow. Probably not tomorrow, because I'm flying. But maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday, maybe Friday, maybe Saturday, maybe all of those, maybe some of those. I'll try to give you as much advance notice as I can. Last pitch. I think you'll really enjoy this live stream that we've got going. It will be like a Yaron Brook show on Thursday night. It's out of Denver. It's a live stream of a post-election analysis, both short-term and long-term. I think it's going to be really fun, and it's going to be really good. And you like my analysis, so why not? It only costs $15, so it's less than some of you spend on the Super Chat. And you can sign up for that to get the link and everything. So go to defendersofcapitalism.com, defendersofcapitalism.com. And you'll find the link there to register for the live stream. But please do it. I think we've got like 20-something people on the live stream. There's almost 100 people live at the event. But I'd like to get the live stream up to 200, 300, 400. I don't think the video is going to be up afterwards. So live stream is the one opportunity for you to really see it. And I hope you do. I hope you participate. It'll be fun, and you'll see me. I don't know how often you'll see me this week and next week as I travel in the U.S. and South America. All right, everybody. I'll see you tonight, 8 p.m., Mike Mazza, private space, and why Ayn Rand was anti-Papa. So, and falsification, why objectivism holds falsification theory as wrong and not the basis of science, in spite of what scientists think. So, see you then. Bye, everybody.